Mhm. Hey guys, good evening. Hello. Wasn't expecting a live. Well, you would know about this live if you followed me on Instagram, Facebook, and all my other social medias. Quarantine is my life. This doesn't phase me at all. I'm used to being in the house. I'm quite enjoying this. Hello from Florida. Gonna let some more people file in because I'm a little early. Hello, sweet brown sugar. Hello, Pamela. Hello, Sabrina. No, I don't do arts and crafts. Sorry. Sorry. Find some on Pinterest, I'm sure. I'm with you, Merlinda. Hi, Stasia. Or Stasia. Stasia. Gonna let some more people join us before we get started. Hi, creatorist. Thank you, Sabrina. Hi, Yafatu Samba from Gambia. Hello. Hello, Strawberry. Well, I got a whole catalog of books for you to read, ma'am. Hello, Valerie. Hello, Dana. Thanks, creatoress. Hey, Kristen. All right, so I got a slight headache. Ugh. All right, you guys. So this live has been in the works since earlier this week. If you did not know that I was going live today, today I'm going to do a live reading on my upcoming novel, tell-all, how-to book called On God. And before I get into more details on God, after this video, I'll be going live again for a live behind the scenes tea video. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that after this video concludes. But back to On God. So if you don't know about my career and what I do for a living, I am a published author. I have been a published author for 15 years. And throughout my career, I've had highs, I've had lows, but steadfast throughout my career, I have been asked at least damn near a million times, how do I become a published author? How do I start writing my first book? How do I go about getting a book deal? How do I go about self-publishing? I don't know anything about contracts. I don't even know how to begin writing. All of these questions I have been asked time and time and time and time and time and time again. So I decided to put all of the knowledge that I have acquired and consumed throughout my 15-year career into a book titled On God. It is co-written by one of my great friends, Sheridan S. Davis. We wrote this book together, and it details everything that you will need to know on the literary industry. And, typically when you get how-to books or books that guide you on things, it's pretty like stale and just mechanical and just I didn't want to do it that way. I wanted to stay true to my personality and who I am as a person. So we wrote this book basically me like talking to you guys, the reader, and giving you guys advice, but in a way of me telling you my story on how I started my career all the way up to where I am now in my career. I got signed when I was 22 years old. I am 38 years old now, so I have a wealth of knowledge from me being young and inexperienced in the game to now being a seasoned writer and author. I've had an amazing career. I've had a crazy journey. For those of you that do know my life story and those that don't, this book will detail it all. I'm not hiding anything. I'm not holding back on anything. I'm telling it all, from my Triple Crown days to my Urban Books days to being self-published now. I'm giving you the real low down tea on everything that has gone on in my career, the highs and lows, the ups and downs. We're talking contracts, covers, titles, how to even start writing a book, formatting, anything that you can think of, getting your first deal, everything that you can go through as an author, we're going to go through in this book. So nothing is off limits when it comes to this. On God will be out next month. I normally don't give a timeline on when my books come out. You all know that when I drop the cover, that means the book is out. It's the same with this. When the cover is dropped, the book will be out, but the book will be out next month. So I'm so excited about it. We have been some busy bees over here at Color Me Pink Publications. We have On God coming out, plus my next book in the Cam and Gray series will be following that release as well. So the synopsis for On God reads as such. On God is an in-depth guide to creating and publishing your first best-selling novel with personal testimonies from the critically acclaimed author Keisha Irvin. On God will feature step-by-step guidance on composing, editing, and publishing your literary masterpiece. Keisha Irvin offers readers a cheat sheet to the industry while bearing her soul and encompassing the raw, uncut truth of her personal journey of 15 years in the literary industry. So today I'm going to read you guys the introduction and chapter 1 and 2 so you can kind of get a feel of the book for when it drops next month. I'm so excited about this book. This book is going to be helpful to a lot of people. It's going to give a lot of people encouragement to finally get up off y'all asses and write that book that you have been scared to write, not knowing how to write, whatever the issue is that's holding you back. Hopefully this book will push you to finally get out there and write that book and publish your work. So let's get it cracking with the introduction in chapter 1 and chapter 2. Let me get this together. Take a little sippy sip of water. Y'all there? Y'all live? Y'all awake? Y'all ready? Talk to me in the comment section. Are y'all there? Y'all live? What's going on? Is it stalling? What's cracking? Can y'all hear me? Is it pause? Y'all look dead right about now. I need some excitement. Lives is about to be changed. All right. Let's act like we got some spirit in us. Come on, wake up. We ain't dead. We ain't got the Rona. Come on, y'all. Let's hype it up a little bit. It's Saturday. Let's get present. Come on, y'all. Let's go. Let's work. Let's get it. Come on. Yes. All right. All right. So the introduction goes as such. In my 38 years on the planet, I have accomplished quite a few things. I have a son whom I adore sometimes, LOL. I'm a businesswoman owning and operating Color Me Pink Publications. I have over 30,000 subscribers on my Color Me Pink YouTube channel. Shout out to the T Squad, which I have built from the ground up. I have had numerous videos go viral across the internet and have met some of the most famous people in the world. Yet the thing I get asked about the most is how to become a published author. And the shit gets on my goddamn nerves. People act like writing a book is some mythical, magical thing when really it's simple. If you want to write a book, you have to fucking start writing. It's that simple, people. It's not rocket science, but if God ain't blessed you with the talent, it might not be for you. Everybody ain't equipped to be an author. It's much like singing, rapping, or dancing. Either you got it or you don't. That's between you and your God, though. I ain't got nothing to do with that. I have received many direct messages, emails, requests for consultations from people who simply want to discover the vast world of writing. I have been a published author from the time that I was 22 years old. Yes, I have been in the game for 15 fucking years. It doesn't feel like it. Time has flown by, and this journey of discovering myself as an author has been one hell of a ride. You won't believe half the shit I have been through. Woo, Lord. So I suggest you grab a glass of wine, preferably, if you're like me and don't drink, a Mountain Dew will suffice, and sit back and relax. On God, I've got stories for days. Your girl done been through some shit. If you don't want to end up in some of the messed up situations I have landed myself in, please take everything you read to heart and apply it to yourself. Now let's get this shit started. Okay, check it. I have written over 30 novels, made the Essence and Amazon bestsellers list too. I have been signed to 2 major publishing contracts before I decided to branch out on my own. I am known for writing stories that will send my readers on a roller coaster ride. And that is some real shit. Let me just big myself up. And although I am not signed to a major publishing company now, many of my peers who are have come to me for advice on writing. I am blessed to be sought after, even while remaining in the seat of the underdog. Shout out to God. Now, please do not get me wrong. I am not bragging at all. The facts are what they are. However, I wanted to explain to you why I'm qualified to release such a work. Because of all the questions I get, I decided to compile all the answers into this book. This is my legacy. This is how I did it, how I am doing it. This is the Keisha Irvin blueprint and a bit of my testimony. Throughout my tenure in the game, like Meek Mill, I have had some incredible wins and some devastating losses. Like Brandy, I was sitting on top of the world, and I have also felt this weight on my shoulders. I have been in demand, and like Crime Mob, I had to knuck and buck my way back to the top. Now I want to share it all. Learn the pitfalls and the mountain peaks, the pen and the paper. I'm showing you how to orchestrate palpable stories and publish them to the world. I will do this once and one time only. I will not be doing it the fuck again. So don't ask. Don't inbox me to ask me how to become an author. Do not DM me on Instagram. I'm giving you the best that I've got, like Anita Baker, here in black and white. Here's the information that you will need. If I get asked this question one more time, I swear to God, I will slap somebody. If I had $1 for every time someone asks me how to become a published author, I'd be a fucking billionaire by now. I really don't like answering this question because I feel as though if you really want to know how to become a published author, you do the research like I did. But hey, I digress. I guess I've had a change of heart because here is your cheat sheet on how to get in the game. You ready? Let's go get them. And that's the introduction. Sheridan is in the chat room. Shout out to Sheridan, the co-author of this book. We have gotten on each other's nerves working so closely together, but that is my boo. All right, chapter 1. Y'all ready? Since as far back as I can remember, my mother read to me religiously every night. She never skipped a night. And the melody of her vocals rhythmically reciting words that bounced off the pages is where I found my love for reading. It is because of Patricia Poe, that we are even here today. Although she works my everlasting nerves, my mother was my first muse. She was my idol and the woman that I aspired to be when I grew up. Without her, none of this would be possible. I owe my career to her and my son. As a result of her reading to me, I found pleasure in the illuminating phrases, booming alliterations, and the cadence of the author's pen that got me hook, line, and sinker. At school age, my gift for writing was crafted through essays and short stories. I began developing that muscle in academia. I won a lot of creative writing awards. In the 5th grade, I won a Dare Medal. You remember those? If you don't, fuck you with your young ass. Nigga, I know I'm old. I won the award for writing an in-depth, detailed essay on my uncle's drug abuse and the effect it had on me and my family. Because of his drug use, my uncle stabbed his ex-girlfriend 31 times with the attempt to kill her. When he thought she was dead, he grabbed a rope and hung himself from a basketball hoop, therefore committing suicide. His ex-girlfriend ended up living, but my uncle was gone. It was all because of his addiction. When I won the Dare Medal, my mom and my dad came to the school and I read my essay in front of everybody in the school gymnasium. I felt special and proud that I had written something so soul-stirring and profound. I remember you could hear the sound of a pin drop as I recited my essay. It was like a high-octane, the legal and kosher way. Looking back, many of my accomplishments have begun with the pen. By the time I got to high school, however, I slowed down with reading a lot. Truthfully, I ain't have time to be reading like I once had because I was too busy sitting on dick and pussy popping on the handstand. But I would read here and there. Of course, I read all the classics like Omar Tyrese, Fly Girl, and The Coldest Winter Ever by Sister Souljah. When I found those titles, I fell in love with the genre called urban fiction, even though I hate that title. It changed my life. I love the gritty street lit and it reignited my fire for reading, but it didn't quench my budding desires. I was still hot in the ass. So at 17 years old, I found myself with child. I gave birth the following year at 18. By that time, I was trying to scratch and survive at that point on some good time shit. After I had my son, my life completely slowed down, completely. There was no more boyfriends. I wasn't going out and kicking anymore because my mom and my family were willing to help me, but they were exceedingly abundantly clear that they were not willing to raise my son for me. No, I was grown enough to produce him, so I had to quickly mature enough to raise and cultivate this human being. Talk about a swift kick in the ass. I went from a teenage girl to a full-grown woman in the span of 9 months, with the addition of stomach kicks, nausea, and morning sickness along the way. So while my friends were graduating high school, working, going to college, having boyfriends, and going to the club and stuff, I was in the house all day with my son, going to work and coming home. I was like chained to this baby, and no, not in a bad way. He was and still is my world. I don't exist without him. Real shit. Chapter 2. Now, during this time, the early 2000s, I had a subscription to XXL magazine, and in there was an article on Terry Wood's novel, True to the Game. Who read True to the Game? I know y'all had to. That shit was the blueprint for me. I read the synopsis and was like, oh, I got to read this. So I went on Amazon and ordered my copy. When I got my copy in the mail, I laid down in my twin-size bed and bitch, I read it in its entirety in just under 5 hours. I was blown the fuck away by Gina and Quadir, honey. They gave me my everlasting life. I was like, oh my God, this book was totally describing my life and my friends' lives. It took me back to the era in which I grew up. It reminded me so much of my Aunt Lisa, whom I looked up to when I was a little girl. She always had the latest, flyest clothes and stayed popping shit. True to the Game was life-changing for me. Even though urban fiction had been around for quite some time, that book introduced me to the latest wave of authors in the genre. The tale in the story was not only entertaining, but reflected my own life. My son's father, although it is not nothing to glorify, was a drug dealer. For a brief stint in my life, I was a dope boy's girl. I can't believe I used to actually think that shit was cute. Boy, was I young and dumb, but you live and you learn. I just thank God that he made me see the error of my ways. But enough of that. I can relate to Terry Woods' novel because those were the type of guys I liked and I went for at the time. I loved a good old bad boy. I always jokingly said I like killers, still do to this day. And those were the type of guys in the urban fiction books. Child, I had to read more. I was hooked. I decided to go on Amazon, and would you know it, there were all these urban fiction novels. I had no idea that so many young Black authors were doing their thing. After a while, I noticed I kept coming across a publishing company with the name Triple Crown Publications. Little did I know then, but it was one of the biggest Black-owned publishers, by Shannon Holmes, Gangster by Quan, My Boy, and so many others. I devoured them all. I had no idea there was a booming market for books designed for those who thought like me, looked like me, and acted like me. These authors were the kings and queens of this shit, and I wanted in. While I was earnestly grabbing their stories, I was working part-time jobs at the mall making ends meet. It was crazy that this was the turn my life had taken. I always made good grades in school, and I was the golden child of my family. Everybody just knew I was going to go to college and do great things. But like I said, I was out here fucking niggas and sweet talking them out their door while I was in high school. I wasn't the least bit worried about my future. I had lost my goddamn mind. Niggas was on me, and I didn't know how to handle that shit. Despite the mistakes I made, I knew that I was destined for greatness. My legacy could not have been one of me just being a teen mom who didn't graduate high school and disappointing my family. No, hell no. That was not the way my life was going to be. My whole life, I had dreamed of being in entertainment and for people to know my name. I knew it was not meant for me just to work a 9-to-5 job. I thought to myself, I've won all these awards my whole life. I'm really good at telling stories. Why don't I just write my own book? At the time, I wasn't even trying to get published. I just wanted to see if I could do it, and I did. At 20 years old, I started working on my first manuscript, which I initially called Living in the City. I know that title was terrible, right? I literally laugh aloud every time I think about it. You got to remember, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just making up shit as I went along. I didn't know it then, but Living in the City by the OJs, of course, was the beginning of me naming all of my novels after song or album titles. After work every day, I would come home to my mother's basement where the desktop computer was and start working on my first book. Eventually, when I got to the halfway mark, I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do with it. I didn't know where the story would go. I had writer's block. One night I remember reading it to one of my best friends at the time. The chick was someone I had known my whole life, so I'm just knowing she was going to be supportive. Boy, was I wrong. When I read her the first couple of paragraphs from the book, she said, and I quote, "Yeah, you need to put that shit up," and laughed. I ain't gonna lie, for a second there, I was fucked up, but not for 1 second did I doubt what I had written. I shrugged her off and gave myself a mental note which labeled her as a bona fide hater. I did not allow what she said to extinguish my fire for that project. I knew my shit was good. I did not take her advice at all, but imagine if I had. How many times have voices outside of your inner voice, God's voice, tried to talk you out of what God has for you? That's why it's so important to listen out for God's voice on your own. That way you won't be led astray by an imposter posing as a friend. Let me rewind that for the people in the slow section that didn't get that. I'm going to read that again because we speaking the word to y'all in this book. That's why it's so important to listen out for God's voice on your own. That way you won't be led astray by an imposter posing as a friend. Truthfully, some people are cool with you, with who you are, until God begins to elevate you. And it's so weird because I did not see the elevation happen in myself. I only wrote the book to prove something to myself. However, her discouragement could have dragged me off the escalator of success before I had even gotten a chance to plant my feet. You better speak a word, Sheridan. Discouragers seem to have a keen sense of smell. Just like a dog, they smell promotion coming a mile away. But you can't focus on them. Have you ever walked up a creaking staircase? Next time you do, pay attention to the noise. When your feet are planted, there is no noise. It is when you push your weight off a stair to move up to the next one that they start squealing. That's a message. Also, no, me and her are no longer friends. To be truthful, she's somewhere walking around St. Louis walking the streets, but I digress. I only surrounded myself with positive people. I only surround myself with positive people who support me, hold me accountable, and tell me the truth. Now back to living in the city. I couldn't figure out where I wanted to go with the book at all. I put the manuscript away for about a year and a half. Randomly, I decided to pick it back up because at that point, I had read more books and found out that Triple Crown was taking submissions on their website. I did some digging and found out that when you submit manuscripts with a major publishing company like Penguin, Random House, HarperCollins, or Kensington, you have to have a literary agent. Let me repeat that for you aspiring authors. I did some digging and found out that when you submit manuscripts with a major publishing company like Penguin, Random House, HarperCollins, or Kensington, you have to have a literary agent. That's a piece of knowledge that I am dropping in this book. Of course, I didn't have a damn agent. Hell, I was still living there with my mama and just elevated to a queen size bed that she had given to me. But with Triple Crown, because they were an independent company, they allowed you to submit your manuscript on your own through the mail. I was overjoyed. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to finish this book and send it in. The only things you needed to submit were a cover letter, which basically told them who you were, along with my contact information, the synopsis for the entire story, and the first 4 chapters. I was more eager than ever to finish my book and see what would come of submitting my work. Mind you, no one knew outside of the one friend that I had read the chapters to that I was even working on the book at this point. Sometimes it's best to keep shit to yourself. By this time, I was 22 years old. My son, Kyrese, was 3 years old. I was still living at home with my mother on food stamps, working at Shop and Save, which is a grocery store here in St. Louis, trying to get my GED and take care of my son. The odds of making it were stacked against me, but I was determined to beat the odds and not continue to be a statistic. And you asked where my dope dealing baby daddy was, that nigga was nowhere to be found. You see, in real life, being a hustler's wife ain't always cracked up to be. That deadbeat was in the wind, fucking a stripper and spreading his seed all over St. Louis. But that was my life. At the time, things looked hella bleak, but I wouldn't change my journey for anything in this world. October 2003, I finally finished my book and was confident enough to print out all the requirements and send it to TCP, Triple Crown Publications. I also finally decided to tell my mom that I had written a book. My mama was a daycare owner who watched my son for me while I worked. I will never forget the day I strolled into the dining room with a manila folder in hand and said, Mama, I wrote a book. She waved me off and said, no, you didn't. I told her I had and showed her the manuscript I had been working on. And she said, oh, so that's what you've been doing every night downstairs in the basement. I shared with her about the company and my plan to send my manuscript to them to see if I could get it published. She encouraged me to go ahead and do it, but it was no big deal. Nobody thought I was going to get signed, not even me. It was just something I did. I've never been afraid to do anything. I've sent demo tapes to record companies. I even reached out to the rapper Shine while he was in jail and tried to be his girlfriend. True story. Yep, I'm fearless and certified crazy. This was right up my alley. I mailed the cover letter, synopsis, and the first 4 chapters of my manuscript to the publishing company in October of 2003. There were no reservations or hindrances. I left it to the will of God and continued with life I had created. Then, December 14, 2003, it happened. It was a day I will never, ever forget. It's the day that changed my life for the better. I was at Shop and Save, working my shift at the register. There I was in my black smock, white polo shirt, khaki pants and shoes, checking out customers. Outside of the window looked like a mythical snow globe, but life inside the store was regular. The parking lot was covered in a thick blanket of white snow. I couldn't wait to get off. Kyrese's birthday had just passed. He just turned 4, and Christmas was fast approaching, but I had no clue my Christmas would begin 11 days early. My manager, a cool-ass white guy named Ray, came to my lane and told me my mom was on the phone. Now, mind you, my mom never called me at work, and Ray's voice was dripping in so much panic that I could only assume the worst. Was somebody dead? Was something wrong with Kyrese? I couldn't get to the phone fast enough. I was as nervous as a kid on report card pickup day. I was shaking like Magic City booty meat. That was Sheridan Line. I swiftly got to the customer service desk and said, hello? Keisha, she exclaimed. Ma'am? Guess what? She hollered excitedly. What? You got a letter from Triple Crown Publications. They're offering you a 2-book deal. I remember just holding the phone. I wanted to pinch myself, but couldn't move my arms. Like God has showed up and showed out for your girl, for real. A call that I thought was going to be a horrific nightmare turned out to be a sweet Christmas dream. And the best part is I was actually awake. Things were turning around for me. And with one phone call from my nosy ass mama who was opening my damn mail, things had turned around for me. December 14, 2003 was the beginning of the second half of my life. A $5,000 two-book fucking deal for a single mother in her 20s who hadn't graduated high school. Can you believe that? I just knew I was rich and I knew God was looking out for me. This was the first time in my life that God had put me in a position where I had no choice but to sit down and focus. It wouldn't be the last time either. But I'm thankful because now being able to party and date after having my son put me in a place where God was able to reveal to me my purpose. Sometimes life can be so loud that you miss his still small voice. I have learned throughout the years that when you're quiet, those are the moments God will give you discernment over your life. If I would have never spent all those nights in bed alone, reading and gaining courage to write my own story, we wouldn't be here. You cannot let the fear of failure deter you from trying. You will never know if you will succeed if you don't put forth effort to take the initiative. So many of you have come to me and said, I want to write a story, but I'm scared or I don't know how to begin. I didn't know shit about the literary industry either. I simply did the one key thing any writer can do to start off their journey as an author. I started writing. It's as simple as that. And that is the introduction and the first and second chapter of On God. The story continues. You go along my journey, the ride of me getting my first deal, going through the trials and tribulations of royalty checks bouncing and all kind of crazy shit. You're gonna go on that journey with me, and during that journey, you're gonna learn the do's and the don'ts of the industry. I'm telling everything. Hopefully, this book will be a blessing to you up and coming authors. I can't wait for you guys to read On God. Me and Sheridan have really put a lot of work into this. This has been a labor of love for both of us and our first time working on a project together. If you don't know, Sheridan is not only a close friend of mine, but she is a reader of my work. We became friends because she is a reader of my work and she used to come to a lot of my events when I visited Chicago. She is an ordained pastor. She is the person I go to when I need a word, when I need encouragement, when I need to be held back from the devil coming up out of me. She has become a great friend of mine, my little sis. I love her to bits, and it's been a pleasure working on this book with her. And through her words of encouragement and my story, we hope to give you guys a piece of work that will help you and guide you on your literary path. So I can't wait for you guys to read it. Shut up, Sheridan. Shut up. That was me being nice. And you know it's hard for me to be nice. But we can't wait for you guys to read On God. It will drop next month, like we said. Like I said, when the cover drops, it will be out. Can't wait for you guys to see the cover. It is beautiful. It is so just royal. I'll say that. It's royal. It's empowering. I can't wait for you guys to read it. Yeah, so that's it. Make sure to thumbs up this video, like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell button. Thank you guys for tuning in and stay tuned. I'm going to be right back with a new episode of Behind the Scenes Tea. I got a lot of stories for you guys. So I will be right back. Share this video with your family and friends. Love you and see you guys in a second.